The Film Crickets are intended for mature audiences. Any guests on the Film Crickets do not necessarily share the same opinions as the Film Crickets.
Film Crickets, chirping about movies.
It's time for the Film Crickets with Jay Fortier, Chris Martineau, and Melanie Howerton. On this week's episode, Jay, Chris, and Melanie review the 1988 American supernatural slasher film, Friday the 13th, Part 7.
And now, the Crickets.
Does it stand the test of time? Let's find out. Your Film Crickets are on now.
Hello, I am one of those crickets. My name is Jay Fortier. Welcome to the Film Crickets. I'm along with my good friend and co-host, Chris Martineau. How you doing, man?
Hello, Jason. What's happening?
All right. How about you, Melanie? How you doing? Melanie Howerton, how are you?
I'm very busy today, but other than that, I'm doing good.
Good.
All right.
We're glad. Be a nice little escape back to Crystal Lake for you.
Yeah.
Let's escape reality a tad and go into some dismal, dank woods
last
in the
week,
middle. Where is this? Alabama? Is that where the set is? Is it Alabama?
No, it's like New
I think
Jersey.
they did say it was filmed in Alabama because I looked it up because
I thought you meant like
a lot of it
like,
was filmed in the winter once again, and I was like, that girl's gonna freeze her butt off like they usually do to people. But it was in Alabama, so I'm sure it was still cold, but probably not as cold as it was if it would be up north in Maine or something.
Of course, Alabama.
New Jersey or
last
wherever.
week,
Yeah.
when we were done with Dream a Little Dream, we had
don't remind me.
We were discussing we were discussing off air.
Your favorite movie?
As if it's radio. No, but I say air like it's radio. It's a podcast.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just old habits. And anyways, while we weren't recording, and I go, I'm really in the mood for a slasher. And it's like, it was like I said, Melanie, here's $1 million. She was like,
Here's a gift for you.
Yeah.
yes.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Huh?
Enough of the Corys. Enough of the other stuff. Let's get into Blood and Mayhem.
All right.
Say that, but one of the Corys was in one of them anyway.
That's a good point.
Right.
That's a very, very valid point. So we kind of went back and forth. He is for 1 second.
Yeah.
That's right. He's in flash. In case you forgot what was happening in the depth of the story that is the Friday the 13th series, they give you a flashback in case you weren't certain. Did Horshack make it into the flashback? No, that's too bad.
No.
That's
You saw him. You saw the guy Tommy turn to as if he was talking to Horshack, but they didn't show him.
Okay.
And the narrator, I don't know if you have this, Melanie, but I had already
but go
mentioned this
ahead.
in the past.
It's actually the first thing on trivia. I'll cross it off. Yeah.
I had mentioned this in the past. That is the old crazy Ralph guy. You're all doomed.
Crazy Ralph.
Oh, all right.
That guy's doing he's doing the narration for the opening of this, which is really cool because he's not in character. Like he says it a little bit, a death curse, but he's not saying it in the same manner. So it's kind of cool that they brought him back.
I think it's so cool. I love that. I think that's
and he has
really
since
cool.
passed away, so like it's nice to know that they did that.
Yeah.
Rest in power, old crazy curse guy.
And that was one of my favorite parts too, is the beginning of this movie and the flashbacks and him narrating it.
Yeah.
Usually I would hate flashbacks, particularly for a movie like this, because I don't need to know. If I've been watching these, I don't need to know what happened.
No,
and I don't want.
What?
Yeah.
They've always done this, like from 2 on. For they always went back a little bit, and it's probably
This is the last one that they do that with.
okay. But it's probably my guess is for those that are dragged to see this.
Oh, true. Yes.
Yeah.
And they're like, what the heck is going on? I haven't seen any of these.
I want to see this.
Yeah.
And the guy wins the what?
Yeah.
What else is happening in the theater in, what is this, 88? 1988? Jay, any idea what month it comes out? Anybody know?
I have some of that in trivia.
Okay. When's it come out?
May 13th, 88.
All right.
Okay.
May.
Okay, in May 1988. But anyway, in the year 1988, it was the first year in which all three of the very top horror series, Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street, all released new films in that same year. Child's Play also came out that year, and then Hellraiser 2 and Phantasm 2. They were all released in 1988.
Oh my God, what was happening to us as a culture? Like, no matter what movie you wanted to see, like, well, you want to see a slasher, you want to see a sadistic, a sadomasochistic demon? Do you want to see a weird doll that curses at people? Like, what do you want to see? What was wrong with us? What escapism that we needed that we had to go see these bizarre slasher films? But that's what was cashing in, man. So we picked 7. We kind of went back when we were talking last week. What we're going to talk about, was it going to be 7 or is it going to be 8? Jay wanted to do 8 because it's Jason Takes Manhattan, and Jay just hates it. So he wants to bag. Am I wrong in saying that you despise 8? You think it's bad?
It's very bad. I like to call it Jason Takes a Boat to Manhattan. Because for the most part, the freaking thing's on a boat. And he finally gets to Manhattan like with, I don't know, like a half hour left. Like, it's like, why bother? Like,
yeah. So you know, as we've been
bad stuff to say about that.
We're gonna do 8. There's no doubt we're gonna do 8. We've done 1. We did 2.
No.
We didn't do 2, we did 4.
We did not do 2 or 3. We did 4, 5, and 6.
All right. So here's the weird part. I've been a horror fan for a long time, since I was small. And weirdly enough, Friday the 13th has always been kind of a blind spot for me. When I was coming into age, like, I knew what they were. I weren't opposed to them. I was just more interested in Freddy, and I was more interested in Hellraiser and The Thing and things like that. So I knew basically that, well, you've seen one Friday the 13th and you've seen them all, and by and large that's true. It's just levels, the degrees to which they are all the same, that is the problem. And what I enjoy about doing this show, among other things, is that I am made to watch these things like I fake like I know a lot about Friday the 13th. And I've watched anyone watch the 8-hour documentary?
I don't know if it was 8 hours, but I did watch the huge documentary on it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's 6 hours. 6. Wow. I know there's one on Freddy that's like 3 hours, and I'm like, wow, that's a long documentary. And then Corey Feldman narrates one that's like 6 hours, and I used to watch that on repeat when I could get it for free. And I learned most of my Friday the 13th lore from that. Honestly, I don't see a lot of them. I don't see them often because it seems like I just know the formula. Mm-hmm. So I was excited to kind of do 7, but and having said that, what's your history with Friday the 13th Part 7? Like, did you watch it a lot? I know Melanie likes a good stabby, but like, is this something you see a lot, Melanie or Jason? Yeah. Like, what's your deal?
In fact, when Jay said, okay, well, you want to do that one? I go, that's so funny because I just watched it like last week.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and I've been like, just because, like, you know, sometimes when I, you know me, when I put on a horror movie that I've seen a bunch of times, I don't always pay attention to it.
Yeah.
I'll be on the phone, like, doing something, being on Etsy, or whatever. I'll be, like, doing my hair, or I'll be taking a shower, whatever, and it's just on. Or I fall asleep
electrocution. Look at my TV in my shower, and I watch slasher movies. You might want to seek some help. I'm just throwing it out there. Wow. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, but I watch this one quite often, actually, and when we were getting ready for this, even though I had just watched it last week, again, I'm always doing something. So I didn't sit there and like watch the whole thing through uninterrupted. Yeah. But I've been playing it all week. Okay. And I'll just put it on and then keep walking in and out of the room and whatever and being like, you know, I'll stop for a minute and look at it and like,
sure.
like, yeah. So yeah, I do. I watch them all the time, and this one's one of my favorite ones.
Really? All right. So is this your favorite one?
No, I love 6. 6 is my
6.
favorite.
I am on so far.
Yeah.
It's a tie between 6 and 10. I think 10 is 10 is masterful, and 6 is just a lot of fun.
But I also love 4.
4 is good, but it's a little. I like it. To me, I think it's slow, and I can't deal with what's his face being so awkward. The guy from Back to the Future. Yeah. Like I just can't.
Oh, Chris,
am I a cold fuck? That guy.
Dead fuck.
All right, so
dead one.
So you can waltz in and out of this movie, and you know, like, if for some reason someone were playing 6, 7, and 8 in your house, and you walked in at any time, you'd be able to distinguish one stab from another stab from a different stab.
Oh, you mean what movie it is? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's excellent. So you don't need to do a lot of homework on it, but you did some trivia, which we appreciate. Jason, what's your deal with 7?
I saw
New Blood? Was it The New Blood?
Yeah.
The New Blood.
Is it New Blood? I don't know.
It's The New Blood because Kane Hodder's in it.
Every time he stabs somebody, it's new.
No, it's New Blood. No. All right.
No, but like I saw it in the theater with my brother George.
Okay. Oh my God, I can't imagine. I'm sure he loved it.
George made a comment that he looks like Eddie from Iron Maiden.
Yeah, when he gets the mask.
Was ripped off. Yep. And he goes, this one he just keeps going back to the barn and getting new weapons. Like he had like a different barn. It was kind of funny. I remember laughing about that. So we went to the theater to see that one. My first introduction to Friday the 13th is it was part 2 when I was like, I want to say in the summer when I was like 9 turning 10.
Like the formative years. That informs a lot of how you
were all
developed
together,
as a person. Sure.
The whole family's like in the hotel, like watching, because we didn't have HBO yet. So we were so excited about the fact that there's this new concept to us, if you think about it, it's probably like a stupid thing that if someone's really young listening to me right now, what do you mean new concept? Okay, back then we only had like 3 stations, of VHF and UHF, had to, change the channel, walk it up to the TV. So the idea that there was the stuff with like, swears or whatever, and the violence, like, it was just like really like, whoa. So we were all watching this horror movie, and so I, long story short, I went to the theater like the next year to go see part 3, and then I didn't see them all in the theater after that, but then I was very excited to go see 7. Cool. And it didn't disappoint. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, it's bananas. This movie's nuts, though.
Sure.
It's cuckoo nuts.
And it's got Weekend at Bernie's. It's good.
Yes, can't forget Weekend at Bernie's. Yes.
I think I grew up watching them also, like I think in the beginning probably renting them, but anyone that I was old enough to go see in the movies, I did. But I remember the very first one I ever saw was at my grandmother's house when I was super little. I mean, that came out a long time ago, and I remember watching it on TV, knowing that I shouldn't be watching it.
Sure. Some intrigue in viewing something you shouldn't view, and the fact that you're at your grandmother's house and you probably get away with probably murder more than you would at your parents' house, which is what it was at my grandmother's house.
My mom did bring me up with horror movies, though, from at a very early age. I mean, I know I lived in Milford until I was 7 years old, and she had already started getting me watching all the classic horror movies by then, like as far as like Creature from the Black Lagoon and the Mummy movies and Vampire, all that kind of stuff when I was like super little.
Yeah, I mean, we were raised right on Creature Double Feature and then moved on from there. As I stated, again, was going through the litany of this, I had never seen this movie. I knew it existed. I didn't know a lot about the mythology until I watched the long form 6-hour documentary, Crystal Lake Memories or whatever it is. I didn't know there was a movie with a telekinetic in it, which is bonkers. I didn't know that was a thing until I watched the documentary. I knew it basically went from 6 to 8 as far as I was concerned, and there was a gray area in the middle. Blind spot, Friday the 13th with the blind spot. I always kind of went for Freddy. I went for the Cenobites. I went for The Thing. I went for all the John Carpenter stuff. So I didn't have a lot of. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of stabby, and I watched Scream Greats, and I watched all the stuff on horror movies, and I got Fangoria. So there was no reason to actually see these films, and so because of that, I've enjoyed my kind of romp through the Jasonville with this. So having said that, let's get into. So I never saw it until yesterday or 2 days ago. Yep, never saw it once. I still consider myself a fan. I just never saw it. So anyhow, Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. It came out in 1988. It's rated R, coming in an hour and 28 minutes. Gets right down to business. And the one sentence recap is: Jason Voorhees is accidentally freed from his watery prison. I don't know if it's an accident. I'll go back. Jason Voorhees is accidentally freed from his watery prison by a telekinetic teenager. Now only she can stop him. Directed by an unknown, written by an unknown, and starring a bunch of unknowns, except for Kane Hodder and the man who would be Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's. What's his name? I can't find his name too quickly here. I don't know. Weekend at Bernie's guy. So that's my deal with that. Let's get into it. So what are we trying to do here? Is it trying to be Carrie? Is it not trying to be Carrie? Like, well, what is happening with this movie? How do you feel about them just absolutely... This is the cinematic version of jumping the shark. We have tried everything. Let's roll with the telekinetic. How are we with the telekinetic? Do you think it's dumb? Do you think it's a good idea? Like, where do you stand on this?
Cool. It was cool because, like, everybody else is kind of just, if you just have it be a regular camp counselor every movie, then you have the same movie every time. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, they're just they're spicing it up a little bit.
They're spicing it up. Okay.
It said that this was the film that they were actually supposed to do, like a Freddy meets or versus Jason.
Yeah.
But the franchises couldn't, like, agree or come to an agreement. So that wasn't happening until the rights were purchased. And then they did the, I think it said New Line purchased the rights for Friday the 13th. And then they released, they finally did it in 2003. But the original name of this movie was either going to be Birthday Bash. How dumb is that?
That's terrible.
Or Jason's Destroyer. So thank God they did not do that.
Okay. Okay. Sure. All right. So look, guys. So first of all, we're starting here with the telekinetic. And the last we saw of Jason in 6, which is, as to right now, 6 and 10 are tied as my favorite. 5 is just porno in the woods, and 4 is kind of slow. 6 is entertaining because it's funny and it's not that bloody. So here we're coming in with 7. And last we saw Jason, he was anchored to the bottom of a lake. Apparently not degrading at all. I mean, some, but what makes him so supernatural that he is able to, like, I know he lived in the bottom of Camp Crystal Lake, but like nobody got him out of the lake. Like, anybody?
So weird.
Nobody?
Nobody. No, but I know what Jay's thinking, because first of all, let's just say that every time we see a Friday the 13th, he's not at this rotting skeleton. I mean, he's getting bigger, like muscular all the time and everything. Yeah. Like, he's just humongous. He's got muscles and he's grown under there. He's 30-something years old now, probably.
Yeah.
You can still see his bones, but he's like, packing on some muscle and some meat on there. But I know what Jay's laughing at. So go ahead, Jay. Tell him about the dad.
Oh, right. Do we want to like jump to the end?
Might as well. It's just funny.
Go for it.
All right. So at the beginning, she is like looking like low rent Carol Ann from like from Poltergeist.
Yeah. Probably does.
And so a little girl sees her dad, who's drunk, hitting his wife. So she runs away, like, onto the dock into a boat. He's like, sweetie, I promise I won't ever do it again. And then she's like, no, I wish you were dead. And then, like, opens her eyes wide, and somehow that means like stuff's gonna happen. And the dock ends up, like, with a canopy, ends up getting crushed, like, sort of like moving, and then he falls into the lake and drowns.
Yes.
And then we're gonna fast forward. Jason does a lot of killing in the middle of the film. And then at the end of the film, as he's, fighting her directly, like, she's throwing things with her mind at him. And at the end...
So it looks so good, too. It looked so good. It didn't look like shit on wires at all. Yeah. Not a bit. Nope. Well, go ahead.
Anyways, at the end, her and the guy that she's with, right, like, they're kind of fighting Jason together. And she's by herself, like, on the dock, though. And then she... like, just scrunches up her face, and her father rises from the lake, looking pretty good after being dead for what, like 10 years maybe, like after being at the bottom of the lake, and then captures Jason and brings him into the water. Now, all day, like, ever since I've been watching it, I thought to myself, so the police, when that father died, like, I can see them saying to the little girl, saying, had your father gone in not so close to the edge of the water, right?
Only 10 feet down,
we would have been able to, like, at least retrieve his body.
Yeah,
but he went in, in shallow water, and he's got some wood on top of him. I don't think we're going to be able to get him, so he's going to stay here. Under the water.
I don't understand why the mom didn't at least try to go in and find him either. You know what I mean? Like, but I did take a picture of him.
Our divers are meant to be going down into deep water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about him is this is what he looks like.
Yeah, looks pretty good.
Yeah.
He basically has all of his hair. It's just a little wet. Yep. He's got a little dirt on his face. As, you know, he kind of just looks like he fell on some dirty kitchen floor.
Yeah.
You know, and he's got some little parsley here and, you know, some mint jelly, some dirty mint jelly on his face.
Okay. We're marinating him, apparently. Okay.
He just looks basically like he's got, you know, like nothing wrong with him at all. And we're supposed to believe that he's been under there for 15 years. Huh?
He could blink. He could open his mouth. Yeah. His eyes were moving.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing was wrong at all. So that's why
dirty.
Jason is so well preserved. There's something in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's high alkaline in Camp Crystal Lake. Guys,
but
look.
I do have more on that.
But they want... Here's the thing. Like, do they... I'm not trying to excuse... Look, we're in a Friday the 13th movie. You're willing to accept a lot of stuff. Like, I'm not looking for Citizen Kane. Like, if Dad wants to pop up, you know, undegraded or undecomposed over 15 years to save, that's fine. But the fact that we have no hint of that gonna happen through the whole movie, like, there's no reason. They're not giving us a heads up like this is gonna happen. At all. Like at the beginning of the movie, the canopy falls on him and he drowns in, as Jason so eloquently observed, like, sorry, what's that, 3 feet? Yeah, we can't get him. Just leave him down there. And they leave him down there and no one bumps into him while swimming for 15 years or fishing. It is a camp, by the way. So people are actively swimming in the pond.
Let me just add.
What? Yeah, go ahead.
Let me add the fact that they fixed the dock.
They did.
Yeah.
The
construction crew came in.
Nice, but little lights on the side. So, did the body disappear?
Right.
Yeah.
And like, are we to? Did she call her father telekinetically to jump out of the water? I know what's going on here. It's the reverse of part one. It's instead of Jason coming up and grabbing somebody by the neck and bringing him in the water, it's a victim jumping up out of the water after years and dragging somebody back in. And like through up to that point, all she can do is throw things at people telekinetically. This girl has psychic powers.
Brought Jason back to life. She was trying to bring her dad back to life. She brought Jason back to life instead.
Right.
But she seemed like she was almost defeated, and she looked pretty shocked that her dad came up and saved her.
Right. So at no point do we know that she has the power to do this. All she can do is lift a sofa on wires and throw it across the room, and lift a TV on wires and throw it across the room. Like, we're not have any inkling that she can, I don't know, raise the dead? Like, what is happening? Like, why should she be able to do that? And my thing is, when you have such a silly movie, and it's silly, these movies are silly. They're not supposed to be very good. But how do you expect, like, Jason, you saw this in the movie. Melanie, did you see this in the theater?
Yeah.
Okay. Did people laugh when he jumped up? Or were they shocked? Or did they giggle?
Remember.
Jay?
No,
don't remember?
No.
It seems to me like, how do you not laugh at that? How do you not think that's like, oh my God, what is that? Like, how do you not laugh? Like, it's funny. It's almost like, really?
Yeah.
Really? If you put that moment. Now, look, Jason X is basically a dark comedy. If you haven't seen Jason X, it's in space. Jason's in space. The whole idea is outrageous. And because the idea is outrageous, all of the kills are kind of funny because the whole idea is nuts, right? This movie, I'm not bagging on 6. I like it. On 7, I mean. I like 7. I thought it was good for what it is. It's fine. But to me, like, they're trying to do this as a slasher, and then this thing at the end is almost comic relief. Like, Dad jumps out of the water, not degraded, not aged, to strangle the mega zombie and drown. What the fuck?
There's reason why. There's a reason why, and I have it in trivia.
Okay, I'm just like.
Do you want me to say it now?
Go for it. I want to know what they were thinking. Like, how we going to. Was it like we didn't know how we were going to end it? Like, what's happening?
All right. So it just said director John Carl Buechler stated that he clashed with the associate producer Barbara Sachs continuously through ideas. And this included showing Jason unmasked for quite a bit of the movie. She vetoed the idea, but he ended up going behind her back and doing it anyway. But he also stated that in the final sequence when Tina's father is coming out of the water, it was supposed to be much more elaborate and feature full prosthetics, a life-size dummy, and the whole sequence was completely overruled. He wanted him to look like he was rotting at the end of the bottom of the lake.
Okay.
It said writer Daryl Hanney now admits that the conclusion of Tina's dead father coming out of the lake to save her was a stupid mistake. Director John Carl Buechler thought that they were going to do it. Tina's dad needed to come out of the water looking almost decayed as Jason, but since he was supposed to have been dead at the bottom of the lake for just as long time as that Jason was down there, he wanted him to basically look like Jason.
Okay.
And it said that scenes were shot with the actor in full makeup, but Buechler was overruled by co-producer, this is so stupid, Barbara Sachs, who thought this effect looked in equal parts looked disgusting and silly. So
the whole movie's silly.
Yeah, so she thinks it looks silly that somebody is rotted that's been in a lake for 15 years or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But so she wouldn't let them do it. She wouldn't let them make him look crazy. So instead, they just threw some traces of mud on his face and called it good. Like,
it's funny to me that you have two people in opposite camps, to opposite artistic interpretation camps on Friday the 13th. Yeah. Relax, guys.
But
it's a slasher.
Fans have since said that the father is really not a retrieved corpse, but only a manifestation of Tina's powers due to his lack of composition. The unexplained appearance of the chain that he carries is because his body would undoubtedly have been recovered from the lake after his death, which is not that large or deep. So now they're saying that like he wasn't really there.
That's stupid.
Fans are just saying that because of the way he looked, but it was really just because the producer person would not let them make him look like decayed.
That is some fanboy bullshit like that. That's like that story Jay says every now and then. Like, all right, listen up. Star Wars would be completely different if Han Solo died. Shut the fuck up, man. No, listen up. No, Han Solo died. Shut the fuck up.
Okay. I'll tell you how. This is because it was at a toy shop. Like those mall toy shops.
Yeah.
That, you can collect like old comic books and video games and stuff. So I was just browsing along and I heard these two guys having this debate, and he's like, if this happened and by the way, this is prior to Kylo Ren killing Han Solo.
Right.
All right. So, but he goes, someone would have to die, and that would be Han Solo. And the guy goes like, no, right? And they were like arguing, and it's like, wait, this is you're not involved in the writing of this, so you can't say that this is going to happen. Now, of course, yes, it kind of did, but what I'm saying is, until it does, you're an idiot.
Yeah, it's all fanboy nonsense. Like it's revisionist history. You can't make someone's poor decision suddenly make sense by calling him. Basically, he's saying that the father coming at the end is like Marley's fucking ghost from Christmas Carol. Guys, it's not that deep. It's just a poor decision made by production, thinking like what's going to work and what's not going to work on this dumb film. Hey, let's not worry about that. Let's worry about the fact that at the end of the movie, sorry, we're jumping to the end. Hey, you know what happens in the middle? Jason stabs a bunch of people. By the way, not that grisly, not that bloody. These movies are not that bloody. They're not. They're not that bloody. I mean, Day of the Dead is far bloodier than this movie, gorier than this movie. This movie is not that bad, except someone getting hit by a sleeping bag.
Say about that.
But my point is that like, you're worried about, like, you want to make excuses for Dad not looking decomposed at the end of the movie as some kind of artistic endeavor, but you had a cabin explode. Like, it had 5,000 tons of TNT and shrapnel flying everywhere, and no one getting hit by flying wood at any point, and the forest not bursting into flames. And by the way, gasoline doesn't explode. It burns, yes. Does it explode? No. And it's they didn't have a hot water heater that's under pressure, and even if it was, it would just shoot up in the air. It wouldn't go off like napalm. What the fuck? Like, we're worried about the wrong things here, folks. Relax. Look, it's stabby, blood, hump, movie over. That's it. It's Saturday. It's Friday the 13th. It's fine. Calm down. Jesus Christ. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, we should talk about some of the middle of it.
We really should. You're right. Absolutely. Oh, God.
I
How about the fact that we have grown... In the middle of the movie, we have grown people. I find this shit hysterical because when this stuff came out, right, I was younger. So all of this, like, frisky... You know, they're going to drink and they're going to do drugs and they're going to have sex, and it's going to be really risque and it's going to be really hot, because that's when you're a kid, like, you're not exposed to that back in the day. So if you can get involved with that in a movie, fantastic. That's one of the reasons that you rent the movie when you're a young teenager. But the fact of the matter is, like, these people have the most tame party ever. Like, they're a bunch of, like, early 20s. They can all legally drink and they can all do their stuff and whatnot, and they are throwing a birthday party with legit balloons for an adult. Like, what? This is the tamest weekend out ever. Like, what is happening? I thought, like, back in the day, I'm like, is this how adults party? I guess so. I gotta tell you, I've never been to an adult party with balloons. Just throwing it out there. Go ahead.
Let's also talk about how weird it is that the couple who are having sex in the van.
Yeah.
The van gets rocked and tapped on or whatever, and they instantly think it's the guest of honor who has not been there for another, like, day and a half, right? Yeah. They're like, oh, I bet you it's Michael, or it's Michael, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. No, but, like, why would you assume it's him? He has not shown up. He has not shown up. He has blown the place off, according to what, they don't know he's dead.
Yeah.
Right? He got killed, like a day and a half ago on his way to the party. Now, if he hasn't shown up by now,
by the
why
way,
would that be the first person you
Texas
think?
Chainsaw Massacre Part 2.
What?
Sorry. That guy, Michael, was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2.
Oh, okay.
No, good. Okay.
Sorry, he's just jumping around from horror movie to horror movie.
Yeah.
No, but why would be the first thought that you'd think is this guy that hasn't been there for a day and a half? Like, you'd be like thinking at least it's one of your party guests that are already there messing with you. Yeah. Right? Why would instead they're like, oh, I'm gonna go outside with a horn and I'm gonna get him, right? Like, I'm just gonna, like, tease him or something. And it's like, what's going on with their thought process?
Well,
and it is a very creative kill, because Jason stabs the girl with a horn, like a toy horn in her eye. Yep. It's pretty funny.
Well, you know that girl that the other one was like, oh, please, you need a little touch-up work first. And she was like, touch-up work my ass, right? And she's putting all this makeup on, looking like she doesn't know how to put it on. And then she's wandering out in the woods for... I don't even understand this. Like, he's been with the other girl the whole time. They go upstairs to have sex. And he's with the other girl. So now all of a sudden the girl puts her makeup on. And she decides to wander around the woods looking for him. And she's going, David? Like, what? First of all, she hears something in the woods, but why all of a sudden is it David? Why isn't it, like, nobody else that's there? There's a whole house full of people, and she hears something in the wood, and she thinks it's automatically David. I just think that's kind of funny.
And how about this? She goes upstairs to do her makeup, right? Remember, she like goes upstairs and says, like, like, I'm going to take care of this. And then next thing you know, you see her coming from like the ground level, like as if that's where she just exited. Yep. It was just kind of a weird little.
So, but kind of at this point in the movie, we're all in the same cabin, and I mean, kudos to this movie, right? In this genre, we usually have kids have sex and they get killed, right? And it's usually one after another after another. This movie waits to have them all have sex at the same time. Like,
I noticed that
near the
too.
end, they're all having sex at the same time.
All
The 2 in the
of them are,
van
yeah.
and 4 in the house. And then Jason comes in and gets rid of all of them at once. And I'm like, see, that to me is more, let's up the stakes of the movie. We don't need it to get weirder. We don't need a telekinetic. By the way, the movie doesn't need a telekinetic. The same thing would have happened.
That's good.
Well, okay, fine. Fine, I can dig it. But I mean, we don't need it. They upped its own stakes. Like, look, we know the kids are going to get wasted, and Jason's going to come by and kill them when they're having sex. Let's just have them have all sex all at once, and we'll get it all out of the way all at once. And to that, I commend you. At least you're trying something different.
My favorite
and we didn't need a telekinetic.
Moment.
What's that?
I think my favorite telekinetic moment that I laughed about was the planter with the guy's head in it.
Oh,
Sure.
yes.
Oh, yes.
He headbutts him. That
Yes.
head literally headbutts him in the forehead.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mine is a couple.
right across the screen.
Yeah, and his head does hit. I noticed it. It was forehead to forehead.
That's so funny.
But mine are when she's first trying to learn how to do stuff, and he's outside. If you hear that weird noise, my dog's growling. So he's outside in the woods, and she like takes the roots from underneath the ground that's near a puddle, and he ties it all around his body and whatever, and he's looking at it like, what the hell? And then he looks up at her like, are you doing this? Do you see this? Are you doing this? Like,
Yeah.
and then later on when he's realizing that it's her, and she hits him with she throws, nails at his face, and he looks at her because first of all, his thing pops off of his face, because she squeezes it. And his mask pops off, and he turns around, and then she gets the nails in his forehead, and he looks at her, and he takes this nail like, damn you! Don't cut this out, he's so aggravated with her, like, that's it, I've had it.
I think
I'm
Kane
supposed
Hodder
to do the damage.
Yeah. Kane Hodder is the first one. He always credits the fact that, he's not an Oscar award winner, but he credits the fact that it's very difficult to act and not talk. And he does a lot of physicality with how he walks and how he breathes and how he moves his face. And I've heard him talk about it. I'm not saying, I can't do it. So good for him. I'm not saying he's super thespian. However, it's got to be difficult when you're under all that stuff and you need to come across, like you just said, Melanie, he needs to portray he's annoyed. What the fuck? I'm supposed to just kill you. Why are you giving me this much grief?
Yeah.
So good for him, and I do like the Hodder. He is pretty good. Guys, we're skimming over the fact that the girl is a we keep saying it, but without really delving in. The girl's a telekinetic.
Yeah.
Okay. Whose father died when a thing fell on him because he's not a nice man. Mom's still alive. So they bring it to a hospital, and the best therapy. Now I understand that he had ulterior motives, but the best therapy the doctor can think of is to bring her out of the hospital so that he can work on her himself. Is always abusive to her. Always mentally abusive to her. And Mom's just yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Let's take her out of the hospital. We'll do a little one-on-one work here in Camp Crystal Lake. Where your dad died. Let's go there. Because that seems like good therapy. Granted, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I probably would disagree with that coursework to somehow get my daughter back in the right mental state. I don't know. You guys disagree? I think it's a pretty piss poor idea, if you ask me.
All I was thinking of is when she's in the office, the mom, and she realizes what the guy's been up to the whole time.
Yeah.
And he was like, you can't begin to understand, whatever. And then when she was when she goes treatment, with the way she says it. But
Yes.
so he's looking at after discovering what he really has done, I would have grabbed all of that equipment, everything that he had in there immediately to hold against him. Because that video actually said that getting her here and having her her mental status basically at its worst, is making all this and you can tell exactly what he's interested in. But the guy is so little, she could have picked something up and smacked him with it and grabbed whatever she needed to grab and get out of there. You know, like that's it. Like, but it's like he was like, no, I'm putting her. You have no say in it. I'm gonna commit her. You have no say. Like, he's little. She could have taken him.
Yeah, he's not threatening or imposing at all.
My guess is that.
And he's a wimp.
No, but my guess on the whole why mom wasn't. I think this was also an era where we didn't know a lot about therapy. Like today, therapy is very prevalent in people's lives. So
sure,
I'm just saying. So no, I'm saying so. You could probably understand in the writing of the film how someone would maybe not see what could be and should be blatantly obvious in front of us today.
But I would also, I'm going to counter that by saying that every movie up to that point, if someone were going to be crazy, now granted it doesn't work with Crystal Lake, particularly that's where Jason is. You got to bring the food to the predator, right? If Jason's in the lake, then you got to bring the people to the lake. But look, of this age, no movies have a problem with padded cells, right? Up to this point, a crazy person was in. Now they don't do padded cells anymore, thankfully. But up to this point, our perception of crazy was, they're going to be a straitjacket, padded cell, drawn on the wall with crayons, and which is really insensitive. But that's how they took care of it back in the day. Yeah. So I agree with you. However, that's not how they would have treated it. If anything, they should do like a Michael Myers. Jason gets out of the lake and finds. But why would he find the telekinetic? There's no reason. Again, this movie is Raiders of the Lost Ark. If Indy has no bearing, no, it's not as good. Indy has no bearing on the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. If he never does anything, the guy at the end lifts the cover off the Ark, and everybody dies. Same thing happens here. If she's not a telekinetic, then that is probably going to jump up out of the lake anyway, I think, and everybody dies anyway. So I just think it doesn't matter that she's telekinetic. It's just cool. I'm not against her being telekinetic. It's bananas, but I'm not against it. I'm just thinking it's not necessary. It's like added. It's like sprinkles on top of an already existing awesome ice cream sundae.
It just makes it different, like Jay said. It's so different from all the other ones, and there was more to it. There was so much trivia that I just couldn't.
I like the boyfriend too.
But they have more sense about
the love interest. I like the love interest.
Just the fact that they didn't get along at all, and that they're now really good friends. That's all I have.
What?
Well, but he wasn't I liked him.
No, I'm saying I liked him. I liked the actor. I thought he was good.
Oh yeah, I did too. Yeah.
I liked him as a character.
I have any trivia on it. That's all I have.
I liked him as a character because they kind of liked each other, but they didn't have to be in love, and they didn't have to sleep together first, so she didn't have to come around and be cool, so she should be with a cool guy. I don't know. I dug it. Hey, before we get the trivia, where Jason Voorhees, not you, Jason. He seems to have a running tab at the local Lowe's or Home Depot because he keeps coming out with larger and larger power tools, and we don't know where they're coming from.
Well, I guess that must have been from some sort of a barn. I
think there was a shed in the back.
There was? Okay. Hey, guys, I don't know how often you use this, but whenever I've used a modern, and it's not, I know this is 88, but the technology existed, any weed whacker,
the brush
cutter, a leaf blower. How easy are those to start? If they've just been idle for a while.
He pulled it a couple times, though.
Did he?
Yeah, I think so.
Boy.
I think I heard.
You've been there, though, Jay.
No,
you've been there.
Fucking thing. I think there was was it Melanie? I'm gonna defer to Melanie and ask.
No, I think you're right. I'm not thinking of that right now, but I think you're right. I think there was a couple polls on that.
Yeah.
I think that we should talk about some just good scenes before we just end it with it. But well, one thing, it's not like a great scene, but I just always I caught this the first time I ever watched this. You know, Melissa, when she's they're like, don't leave, Melissa, and she's like, saying that she's, that's not my style. And then he's there stay, and she's like, fuck you, so she's gonna go open the door. Well, when he goes to kill her, she takes her right arm and she wraps it around his waist before he throws her.
Oh, no.
You guys didn't catch that? I saw that.
No, I did not see that.
Did you see it this time, Jay? Because I told you to look for it.
I was looking for it. I didn't quite pick up on it the way you did, but like, I mean, I was like, I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
I didn't rewind it.
I think that was like a filming error because she goes to like, get a grip on him before she gets thrown across the floor, which, she's not going to be doing that with an axe in her head. But, and then how about that girl's scream in the woods? She got a pretty good scream. One? The one that, needed the touch-up work.
Oh, yes. She did scream pretty well. I do. That's got to be difficult, man. If you're on a set and they say, we need it again, and you got to scream your ass off like 20 times.
Different one. It was loud, then it went out, then it went up again. Like, it was like totally different. Anyway, I always remember that. But what about different scenes as far as like, and any kind of things that seemed funny to you guys when you were watching?
Well, I mean, look, it's not, and I was saying this before, like this thing has a reputation. These things have a reputation of being really bloody. And these movies, like at least the later ones, they're not that bloody. Like they're not, like guts aren't coming out of people like Day of the Dead. People aren't being ripped apart and you see entrails coming out. Tom Savini, he cuts a throat and like blood sprays out of a throat. And here we just see spears coming through people. So these kills are not, they're fun. They're fun kills. But I don't mind. It's okay. Like it doesn't.
It's frustrating because we get some stuff on that.
Okay, but we got to talk about.
Have a lot more.
But we got to talk about the sleeping bag.
Oh yeah,
because I just heard in a podcast earlier today about someone bringing up the sleeping bag kill.
Yeah.
How do we feel about the sleeping bag kill? Someone want to describe it?
I know that this is freaking insane. So. I have some trivia on it if you just want to wait for that. But unless you just want our opinions about what we thought about it.
Some people say this is like their favorite
kill scene.
Jason kill. Or Kane Hodder says this is one of his favorites.
It is, yeah.
And it's... How do you feel about it? Do you wish it were bloodier? There's no blood. You just hit thwack,
I like
thwack.
it. In fact, didn't he also do that? Was it like the new Friday the 13th? Didn't he do that on that one as well?
Well, I know he did it in Jason X, like, because they were simulating.
They said Jason X. But
I forgot.
Did they were Jason
like,
X?
We love to have premarital sex. Like, and they're like, the two girls are taking off their shirts, and they're like, woohoo! And he grabs them, and he starts whipping up against the tree or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're not dying because they're Sims. So they're still giggling as he's whipping them against
that movie is the best. It's so funny.
He's really confused on like, how come they're not dying? I hit them 3 times against the phone. It's really funny.
But in the newer Friday the 13th, doesn't he hang somebody in a sleeping bag over a fire?
Over a fire.
Yeah.
That's brutal. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. So I don't know.
Do you have any trivia on Kane Hodder, whether he was the one burning?
About burning? Yeah, I have that.
Okay.
That's like a full burn. That's
filming. Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
All right.
So
and then you can add to it if I don't say the right thing.
Why don't we get into it?
Okay.
All right. Hit
it. Hold on. Here it is.
It's time for TMI with Melanie.
Listen to this. I am in the bathroom right before the movie starts. And I'm in the stall, and there's no toilet paper.
And mine are at home in a display case above my bed.
TMI, my friends.
TMI?
Too much information.
Say don't go there, but that's lame.
Now, here's Melanie with your timeless movie info.
All right, Melanie, slice and dice us with the great info.
Bring it.
Okay. The budget was $2.8 million. It grossed $19.2. The body count was 16. This was the last, I think we talked about this, the last Friday the 13th film to use the footage from any of the previous films because they did that up until, part 8. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Director John Carl Bushier was so mad so many times over the years, the number of edits that was required for the MPAA to avoid an X rating because I guess it was like really gory. The film had to be submitted 9 times to Motion Pictures Association of America before granting the R rating, and it's the most heavily censored Friday the 13th there ever was, it said. Any hopes of completely uncut version of the film being released was dashed when it was revealed that the footage no longer exists. Paramount destroyed all the outtakes. All that remains of them exists only in bootleg work prints, and it's very, very low quality. Jason's mask in this film was cast from the same mold as the original mask from Friday the 13th Part 3, 1982, and it was modified slightly to the addition to the damage scene of the mask where the axe was cut or the propeller damage. The edges of the mask have been trimmed to make it smaller to allow more of actor Kane Hodder's head to be seen. This film set the record for the longest uninterrupted on-screen controlled burn in Hollywood history. To accomplish this effect, they rigged apparatus to actually capture the ignition on film. In that moment, you're actually watching Kane Hodder truly being set on fire, an effect which normally is accomplished at the time via trick photography. Hodder stayed on fire for a record setting of 40 seconds.
Wow. Now, question.
Yeah.
The reason I asked that is because I'm sure it was earlier in life that he did that stunt where he got burned for real. There's a whole documentary on him.
Yep.
Okay.
Where he's talking about where he actually he was doing an interview with a lady for a magazine, and he was gonna do a burn, and he made a mistake and basically burned himself a lot of his body.
Oh my God.
Where he had to go running into a neighbor's house. They didn't even know the people, and he was they saw that what was wrong with him. He was in their shower, trying to douse himself. It was just a brutal story. He breaks into tears talking about it.
For him.
Right, no, but he breaks into tears talking about the story. So I don't know how he ever got the courage to go and do another burn ever again.
That's what I'm saying. Do you think that this was before the burn, though?
Yes.
I want to say it was earlier. Before he was famous.
So you think he got burned before he did this?
Yep.
I think so.
That's insane that he did
That's
that.
what I'm saying.
Because he's done burns after that.
Yeah.
And now he knows what you got to do to be safe.
Jesus
and
Christ, I don't
what
know how I
stuntmen
could
have
get
to do, but that's
level
bananas.
where I'd accept it. You know what I mean? Where I'm going to do that again. You know what I mean? Even if he knows what he's doing, I'd still be afraid.
Yeah. Yeah, that's traumatic. I mean,
that's why
traumatic.
I watched it. Oh my God, he lit himself on fire. Oh no.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
That's crazy. All right. During the filming, Kane Hodder's dressing room was a quarter mile down a dirt road. So one night when filming ended at 2 a.m., while he was still in costume, he decided to walk through the woods on a path to his dressing room. He was walking when somebody approached him and asked if he was with the movie. He didn't reply because he thought that was just a pretty stupid question to ask, the way he was dressed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it said, as he was standing there in full costume, the man asked again. And Kane took a little lunge at him and grunted.
That's awesome.
And then the guy took off tripping and running. And then it said the next day the director told him that the local sheriff was supposed to stop by, but he never showed up.
That's awesome.
So that's
hey, it's like you're standing in McDonald's and say, "Hey, man, you getting some McDonald's?" No.
Yeah.
No,
He's
no, I'm not.
Okay, I'm not answering you because that's just stupid. William Butler, Michael. That's the one I told you that was in Friday the 13th. I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. Was also part of the makeup effects team. He helped Kane Hodder with his prosthetic appliances. Because Kane would sweat in his latex makeup appliances, which would often be removed and later reused. Butler gave him the nickname Stinky Voorhees. I we had something else that was like that too. I remember doing trivia on that too, that somebody was saying that person was really gross and smelled.
Oh, that latex does.
That's not fair to the person. You know what I mean? Wow, they really stunk inside that costume that had no breathing. It's
that he was in all day long, doing a really good performance. Yeah.
I knew somebody that her daughter played Wally the Green Monster for the Red Sox. It was one of the first.
Really?
To do it. And if you don't think that mask was a stinky mask, when you're walking around in the summer at a ballpark, and sometimes in the sun. You're going to do nothing but sweat.
107 degrees.
I think they have air conditioning in those suits now, but they didn't.
Still.
I don't think that one did.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is about the sleeping bag. Okay, so Kane Hodder said that he had difficulty in the scene where he kills the camper in the sleeping bag by bashing her into the tree because the dummy and the fake blood inside was so much heavier than he thought. It was 95 pounds. The scene required a number of retakes because he kept swinging as hard as he could, but no matter how hard he swung the sleeping bag, he couldn't get it to look right.
Okay.
Hodder later said that that was one of his favorite kills, and he later recreates it in Jason X 2001. Now, this is freaking crazy, and this is psychotic. The sleeping bag kill was inspired by the screenwriter's urges to kill his own sister.
Okay.
That is not. This gets worse. This is freaking insane. According to Hanley, I used to shove my brother into a sleeping bag when I was a kid. I once had a fantasy of killing my kid sister the same way. I guess that's why it became so popular. People can really relate to it. Really? They can really relate to that? Because I don't think that people can really relate to that.
No.
Like, I have fantasies of killing my siblings, and I wanted to do it this way. Like, he also did his own Jason stunts in the film, including falling through the stairway and having the porch roof fall on his head. There were numerous film scenes that were edited out of the final cut in order for the movie to avoid an X rating, including Maddie's face getting stabbed in the woodshed, Dr. Cruz's body being cut into two in the woods, a longer death in the sleeping bag scene, Russell's axe in the face by the lake, Jason holding David's head, and an ending scene of Jason jumping out of the water and grabbing a fisherman.
Okay.
So those are all scenes that were cut out, and I guess they were pretty gruesome. Director John Carl said that if ever given the opportunity, he would want to create a Friday the 13th Part 7 Volume 2. His proposed sequel would ignore Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, and follow the characters featured in this movie after they were rescued. Tina would be in a mental institution after being blamed for the deaths that occurred. Jason would be stalking her and killing doctors and nurses along the way.
Okay.
All right. The original writer was Daryl Hanney. He was fired after his agent contacted an executive producer, Frank Mancuso Jr., and told him that Haney would not do any more work for the project unless he received a large pay increase, even though Haney had never told this to his agent, and he would never want any such thing being done. The screenplay was completed by a second unknown writer, who was credited as Manuel Fidello. Elizabeth Caton's death scene, the one with the long red hair, had to be reshot after principal shooting of the movie had wrapped in Alabama. Originally, she was killed by Jason by having her stomach cut open with a machete. But the makeup and the appliance underneath her shirt was noticeable, so the scene had to be reshot with her being thrown out of the window. So there's a lot of reasons why this one was not as bloody.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be a lot bloodier. Lead actress Laura Park Lincoln said during her rare off days from shooting, she would use custom button maker to make Jason fronted buttons, and she noted that she made over 50, and that would make a very super rare crew member item should they ever resurface.
Wow.
She also did some of her own stunts and gave herself migraines doing the bulk of her own crying. That's it.
All right. Oh, Jesus, God, what a nightmare. This movie's a nightmare. All right, go ahead.
It's time now for Final Judgment. Are you ready to rubber stamp this bitch? Here's the Final Judgment.
If you're a character in a Friday the 13th movie, then chances are you're getting Final Judgment.
Yeah, pretty much. No.
All right, so let's say if this holds up or not. It would only hold up, I would say, with the right people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, other than that, no, it's very dated. You know what I mean? Like, it's if you're a slasher fan or if you're nostalgic for 80s, then you'll probably think it does. But everybody else, no, it's very dated and it does not. It doesn't mean I don't like it. I like it. It's fun. But I don't
okay. Melanie?
Okay, so I'm going to say, does it hold up to today's standards of how they make horror movies? No. Is it as scary? No. Is it as bloody? No. So does it hold up to today's standards? No. However, I will never say that any of the Friday the 13th don't hold up, or the Halloweens in my, because they're just, to me, such a classic thing. So if you like Jay said, if you like horror movies, it's such a classic. There's no way it doesn't hold up. But to today's standards, if they were, making a movie, would it look like this? Would it have this feel? No. But so I'm still gonna say yes, because it's just a freaking classic, and I'll always say yes to that.
I kind of lean, and it's strange, but I'm leaning towards what Melanie's saying. Like, to me, it's not supposed to hold up because it's goofy bananas McGillicuddy. I mean, it's bananas. It's goofy. It's supposed to be bonkers, and it takes itself. It shouldn't take itself as seriously as it does. That's why I like 6 more. It doesn't take itself as seriously, and like I said, Jason X is just a dark comedy. I'm interested to see what happens with 8 eventually when we do 8. But I think it holds up because you're only watching it because you're looking for that. And the fact that it's able to, like I said, my battery's going to die. Like I said, because it's willing to take the usual format, stick with the format, and granted it had some problems with the kills, they're trying to do at least a little bit something different. I don't know. I would say that it does hold up if you're looking for a slasher, because they don't make slashers anymore. It doesn't hold up if you're looking for a horror movie. How's that? Cool? All right.
Yeah,
that's what I think. I'm with Melanie on this.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was our show, everybody. Hope you enjoyed Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood, and enjoyed us discussing all about that goofy film with it's fun. I love it. So don't mistake me for saying no to saying I don't like it. I love it. Friday the 13th is great. I'm a slasher guy. I always have been. I always bounce back and forth between Michael and Jason. It's like apples and oranges in a way. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to compare. They're both fun. I love them. But anyways, that being said, I'd like to thank Steve Lavoie for coming in last minute to pump out our intro here today. He did it literally within like the 6 to 6:30 time, and we started our show at 6:30, so it was really last minute. It was awesome. So
thanks, Steve.
He even put effects on his voice and everything. That was great. And he's always doing stuff for us, and he gets paid as much as we do. Okay. I just want to make sure that's clear.
I was going to say the same thing.
The big fat goose egg, Listen, I also want to thank Draco and the Malfoys for our theme music, and please like and subscribe. Like the video; it really helps. And comment. I like reading the comments. I try to respond to every single one of them, unless they're douchebags. Then I don't. Pretend they don't exist.
Hey, it is what it is.
That's it.
Do we have those kind of comments?
Occasionally, not much, but occasionally, every once in a blue moon, it's like
you're reading them and not me. I'd be too. I would be like,
no. It's like I treat it like The Simpsons did with the monsters. Just don't look. Just don't look. So, anyways, well, that being said, thank you very much. And on behalf of Melanie and Chris, I hope you have a wonderful week. And until next time, movies may not age like fine wine, but we drink it anyway. Bye.